Is this the future? Funny, huh? Yeah, it's such a relief that we humans learned a lesson from the insane Cold War era and put an end to all this testing of nuclear arms. Now we can just have a good laugh at how crazy we used to be. Now, in case you were wondering, Split Second was not filmed anywhere near the actual Nevada nuclear test site. Exteriors were shot in Mojave, California, about 50 miles east of Bakersfield, and the ghost town scenes were staged at the RKO Ranch in Encino. In truth, Victor Mature and Jane Russell were susceptible to more radioactive danger making the Las Vegas story on location than were the cast and crew of Split Second. Ironically, a few years later, Dick Powell would direct The Conqueror in Snow Canyon Park, Utah, downwind from one of America's most active test sites, Yucca Flats, Nevada, where 11 above-ground tests were conducted in 1953 alone. The Conqueror has become notorious for having so many of its cast and crew die of cancer, including stars John Wayne, Susan Hayward, Agnes Moorehead, and Pedro Armendariz, as well as Powell himself, only 7 years after he'd made the film. And it's debatable whether or not it was radioactive fallout that left more than 90 of the film's 220-person cast and crew infected with cancer. Frankly, it's more likely that lifetimes of nonstop cigarette smoking did the trick. But steadily rising cancer rates among citizens of St. George, Utah, who call themselves downwinders, have kept this controversy very much alive over the years. One of the cast members of Split Second was an actual ex-con, Paul Kelly, who played the wounded fugitive Bart Moore. His real-life story, which I rarely miss a chance to tell, is beyond film noir. Kelly had been a stage and silent screen actor since childhood, and in the mid-1920s, he became close friends with husband and wife actors Ray Raymond and Dorothy Mackay. Over time, Kelly and Mackay became very close friends, much to the chagrin of Ray Raymond. It all came to a head on April 15, 1927, when Raymond and Kelly, both drunk, got into a vicious brawl at Raymond's house. Dorothy Mackay returned home to find her husband on the floor, unconscious, and Kelly passed out nearby. Her terrified young daughter, Valerie, had witnessed the whole thing. Mackay sent Kelly home and put her husband to bed, only he never woke up. The trial was a scandalous sensation. Kelly's love letters to Mackay were splashed across front pages, and the actor's houseboy, yes, he had a houseboy, testified that Kelly and Mackay were indeed lovers. In the end, they were both found guilty. Kelly got 10 years for manslaughter, and Mackay pulled a 1 to 3 year jolt for withholding evidence of a crime. They were both sentenced to San Quentin, which is where the noir version would end. But this story is stranger than fiction. Kelly proved to be a model prisoner. He was released after 25 months in stir and immediately returned to New York to resurrect his acting career. Dorothy Mackay served only 10 months, during which time she wrote a stage play, which became the basis for a 1933 Barbara Stanwyck picture, Ladies They Talk About, remade in 1942 as Lady Gangster. It gets better. After their release, Kelly and Mackay reunited, and in 1931, they were married. Kelly adopted Valerie Mackay, by all accounts becoming a loving stepfather to the little girl who'd watched him beat her father to death. In 1940, Dorothy Mackay died from injuries suffered in a car accident. Paul Kelly remarried and enjoyed a robust Hollywood career, becoming a familiar face in film noir. He must have savored the part he played right after making Split Second. In Duffy of San Quentin, Kelly had the title role, warden of the prison where 26 years earlier he'd been a convict. 2 years later, in 1956, Paul Kelly died. Not from irony, but from a heart attack, ending one of the most unusual Hollywood stories ever. Join me back here next week for another excursion into Noir Alley. Dr. Audrey Totter tries to restore Robert Taylor's memory in High Wall, although what he may remember is murdering his wife. It's a good one. Until then, I'll see you in the shadows.